Gary's arrested where he land. A prince cast out makes his stand. From Chicago's shadow he did rise, with silken dreams beneath dark skies. A casino built where fortunes flow, to fuel the plans where power grows. Clan by clan and step by step, the city stirs from ancient depths. But shadows linger, secrets creep, and slumbering dead no longer sleep. The tremors blood with sorcery tied, revive the streets that once had died.
Hello,
And
how
well,
we doing?
Past and present intertwined.
Okay.
Doubt and fear in
Hello, we're
every
having issues
mind.
again.
As
I am
schemes
doing alright.
unravel, blood will tell.
All right is good, and okay is okay.
Rise or
And
sink
luckily, hopefully, no issues tonight. Hopefully, Discord plays well with us. Technology does not leave us hanging to dry. And for the record, this is officially SoupCity sends Rusted Souls into the unknown. The call is clear. When we last left this coterie, this group of kindred, the heroes of our hearts, our minds, and our imaginations, and the villains in their own stories, we left them where we leave most things, in the middle of a conversation. We left them deciding or attempting to decide what comes next. It's the largest question, the biggest question, and the most constant question for every living thing. Unfortunately for our coterie, they're not in fact living. They are a close facsimile of it. Each of them remembers what it is like, what it was like, what it felt like to be alive. Each of them fools themselves and the world around them in varying degrees as to what that means. And they're very close, but they're not actually alive. And they are a ambulatory animated corpse with the remembered shards of a living soul. In short, and very long, they are monsters. They are the unreal made real. And they, like everything else, is bound by certain immutable and oftentimes very mutable laws. To catch us up more completely, this is Gary. This is the once hallowed Magic City. This was once the city of industry. This was once the fastest growing city in the entirety of the Midwest. This was once the only city that could rival the might of Chicago. All of those things were considerable decades long in the past. All of those things, all of those epitaphs, while fitting at the time, are some cruel twist of fate and a joke best left unuttered in modern times. Or at least that was the case. Or at least that was the standard. At least that was the center that had been shaped by Chicago's predation, by the capitalist attempt to find cheaper, faster materials. That was very much for the war of wars that has been fought on every middle American's dining room tables. Profit for less pay to raise the price of everything. It's a beaten dog. It is a city in disrepair. It is the indefatigable, unwilling to simply roll over and die. And in that spirit, the first Prince of Chicago, the founding fire for what Chicago was, became, and is, Prince Maxwell, one of the few deposed princes to actually persist after losing their cities, has returned to the Midwest, has returned not to that ivory center that is Chicago, but a stone's throw away. He's returned to Gary and brought with him the forces and capitalists and entertainers and a little bit of Las Vegas in the center of the U.S., a little bit of Las Vegas in the lich that was and is Gary, bringing with him lucre, a tourist, and money. The true god of the American empire, money. And like a fevered dream, hope has actually returned to Gary. And with it, the Tremere. And with it, the hopes of building anew what had been taken from them. An opportunity. Rebuild. Better. Stronger. More entrenched. Before we pick up, 7 days from the last conversation left unfinished, 7 days from finding what it is that they found, discovering what it is that they managed to accomplish. The question is, what was it that they had managed to accomplish? The question is, what was it that they found out? The questions compounding one atop the next. So as we seek these answers, we imagine ourselves skating across that great inland sea, Lake Michigan. We find ourselves flying from the lit upon beacon that is Chicago, that great gleaming star of a city, sitting atop the lake as king of the Midwest. We move across that sea, across that lake. And less than 50 miles from the center of Chicago, we find ourselves in the ramshackle, in the broken down, the forgotten, the constantly enshadowed city of Gary. Not nearly as many twinkling lights in its downtown center, not as many persons moving boldly into and through the night, not as many persons out and about. We swoop through the huddled streets, hiding from and within the shadow of despair, to the University of Illinois, University of Indiana South Campus, there off Broadway. The former chantry house, the once again potential chantry house, calls having been made, repairs having been begun, and goes without saying, I will ask it all the same. What do, folks? What do?
See, we're missing some people, but whatever. Anand would be in the process currently after having woken for the night and gotten herself together, gathering the items for the warding. It took her a week to get it all together and get everything they needed together to have the others come help her with the warding. She also reached out to Hestia to see if she could either help long distance or come down and help.
Marie would likely have just been coming over from the clinic where she sleeps. Probably looking over some stray medical results. Just random people who had wanted blood tests for something, just making sure they're, what the positive, negative, just keeping on top of it.
And Dr. Frederick?
Dr. Frederick, after awakening, is actually working with a couple of his clients to start the night. Someone needed tutoring on Spanish, another one needs tutoring on French. And if only he was hungrier, he could take advantage of this. But so far today, he is maintaining his mundane responsibilities, thinking about, fantasizing about his contributions to the chantry.
And what exactly are his contributions to the potential growing chantry? There are a lot of things that are needed. There are a lot of things that, well, for lack of a better word, is not really possible presently.
Precisely, not much in the immediate future, but as soon as we really build things off the ground, the things that can be done for the chantry will be amazing. Getting more stuck into the thought of what will be over what currently is.
So he's attempting to overthink.
Yeah, he's overthinking.
Okay. So one of the many truths about overthinking, analyzing everything, and trying to account for what will be, trying to forecast the future. It has been proven time and time again that is an exercise in futility. Because the idea behind it, the driving impetus behind it, is not in accounting for every facet. It is trying to minimize anything else's control over the outcome of decisions. It is often used as a crutch and a shield to keep from having to make decisions. I have not formalized, I don't have all the data, because it's impossible. Tomorrow is always coming and never arriving. Because by the time tomorrow gets here, it is today. And the only way to avoid consequence, action, is to make no action. It's to do nothing, which is unfortunately a very unfulfilling existence because it does not quantify as a life. Many people, most, the majority of these persons, especially in this modern era, reach towards that. I haven't thought about it. I need to account for it. No, you need to make a decision. You need to do. Because as long as you think, there's never an end of things to think about. think on it, decide, act. Most people get stuck in the thinking. Some get stuck in the deciding. But all who overthink never quite make it to the doing. Much like many of the founders of the chantry that were here previously. Many of the tenured Tremere who labored away working on compiling, hypothesizing, and otherwise using conjecture and conjuring what tomorrow might be, never managed to accomplish, never managed to do. Which is the reason why Calabalarshi was able to accomplish, because he did. And looking over the running of the clinic for a underserved community that are these students, there is a surprising number of them who, through family, friends of friends, and associates, it should not be ambulatory, but they are. There is a growing rash of anemia, lethargy, depression, couch rotting happening. The question is, does Marie have the opportunity of noticing? Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus either academics or investigation as she looks over the medical records as she makes her way absent-mindedly into the chantry house. And while that roll is happening, Anand, it is the most disheartening thing and the most disheartening news that you have had the opportunity of bathing in and soaking in over the last few days. Arden Canty. That's right. The only known Tremere to be devoutly Tower, who was able to bring Baron Joshua Ternopolsky under his sway to nearly talk Ternopolsky back towards the tower, is purportedly in line to achieve the regency of the central chantry of the Midwest, Chicago's prime chantry, the chantry to which you all individually belong until or unless you all fully establish this chantry. Arden Canty, the priest of priests, the Tremere of Tremeres, the poster boy for success comes to all who don't give up. He's been in the area as long or purportedly longer than Regent DeSable. He has been a Midwest Tremere before the days of Nikolai, the former regent of the Prime Chantry. He is the Tremere equivalent of the 60, 70, maybe 80-year-old grandparent who goes back to college to achieve their degree and goes on to great acclaim and success. They have a podcast, they have a TV show, they get various co-star and guest starring roles in movies and TV shows. They are all abuzz and receiving all of the just desserts of a life spent trying to achieve that goal, but they didn't. They spent their life getting their life, providing for their family, and doing all of the many things that most of their peers could only dream of or who were only working towards. But because they did go back to school, because they did manage to get a bit of fame and get a success, they become the success story saying, it's never too late. That's who Arden Canty is. and he is purportedly next in line to become the regent of the Prime Chantry. For you, it's a bit of a rough road, because you know he is devoutly Church of Cain. He is devoutly against any alternative theory for kindred coming into existence. And while he's not openly or privately a man of his time in regards to race and sex, he is definitively antiquated. The dynamism that you feel in your heart the Tremere need, so that the younger, newer, more recently dead have the opportunity of rising through the ranks, he does not hold. He is not a example of that. In fact, you're sure under his leadership, if the rumors are true, you all are going to be forced, conscripted back into what the Tremere actually are. Your circles of mystery. None of you all should have your own haven at your circles of mystery. All of you all should be under knightly tutelage at the hands of an elevated magister or acolyte of a higher circle of mystery. None of you all would have the autonomy nor agency you presently have grown accustomed to due to the dire situations which have brought you here. If you fail and he succeeds, there is no doubt in your mind the idea of you, or any of you all, having the freedoms that you all have partaken of would ever continue. So you have a choice. You can draw Hestia from Chicago to help you achieve what it is that you would like, or she can stay there and continue laboring and countering his rise through the ranks.
So that was kind of a wasted role, in a way.
It was not. It will come due. But for expedience, if you want that now.
Obviously, she's not going to pull Hess away if Hess is needed to counteract that guy, because obviously he's a terrible choice, and I wish somebody would take him out. But if she needs to be in Chicago, that's all there is to it, and Anand will figure something else out.
It is as plain as the nose on your face. Those are definitely a lot of numbers. It is as obvious as the printed page. Those are a lot of students. The thread of it all doesn't make sense. There's no reason for as many of these students to be complaining of anemia or depression and just needing to rot, or there's not as many signs of, there's not any external signs. There's the expected number of alcohol poisonings. There's the expected number of clear-cut over-service in regards to several manners of inebriation, not just liquid. There are all of the expected signs that you would expect at a party school. The high protein, the low protein, the pregnancy scares and the STDs, all of the mistakes that children have made at college for the last several hundred years are sitting there on that page. What connects them is that they're on that page. And the numbers are still, as far as you can tell, far higher than they should be.
Very interesting. Marie would share this with the others, effectively. Yeah.
Do go on.
Yeah. She arrives in and she looks around to see who's there. I'm guessing she was the Anad.
Yep. Anand and Dr. Fectrix making his arrival.
Yeah. He'll. Could you two take a look at this? You're more well versed in this kind of stuff than I am, but do you know any explanation for these numbers?
I'm just now walking in, and you're saying that.
Sure, let me see. And Janan will
She
look over the
passes her.
paperwork.
And to be so kind as go ahead and roll your either or intelligence plus academics or wits plus academics.
A specialty in psychology wouldn't count in here, right?
No.
Okay.
No, not just yet. Depending on your successes, it will factor in later.
Shall I roll as well?
Are you assisting as you walk in?
Yeah. After going with my mustache and asking, is everyone getting a handout? Um,
So, two qualifying questions, if you will. One, how does Anand view the campus there on Broadway?
It used to be a much cooler place than it is. Now it's kind of, eh.
So she doesn't have any emotional connections to the space. She doesn't find it. She didn't have any ownership in regards to it just yet. Is that what is what I'm asking?
No, it's a means to an end. She knows what she's supposed to be doing. Her emotions are mostly negative involving it because of the whole chantry being burned to the ground thing at one point. But she still doesn't feel like it's theirs yet.
And the same question to the good doctor.
How
do
do
you
I
feel about the campus?
feel about the campus? I have a deep bias towards higher learning that does skew my view of the campus. I see it as one of the many meccas of enlightenment in the modern world, and thinks that the campus, just like many other places, is a I had the word. I genuinely had like one word to break that down. It is the ideal conditions for our kind to prosper.
Okay. So while you both get to a obvious point, it's literally as if someone came with a printed out map showing you how to get from point A to point B. And that point B being the campus is the center of predation, not casual feeding, not occasional. It is the center based on the numbers of anemic, depressed, unable to leave their abode, the rise in alcohol, because your alcohol by volume increases when you have a lower volume of blood. So your alcohol content raises precipitously and dangerously high when you're fed on at a party or a gathering where alcohol has been consumed. You all look at the data that Marie brings you, and it is as clear and bright as day what is happening. Some ones, multiple, are feeding without regard on the campus.
Do I get a idea looking at this? How much overlap are there in the cases of anemia and depression and alcohol poisoning? How many times are people hitting that trifecta?
Not nearly as many as you would like. Far more than a random happenstance, but far less than you would like to show definitive, easily tracked, easily traceable centers of predation. It is effectively, looking at these numbers, campus wide. And as you, even with emotional distancing yourself from the sense of ownership on the campus, Anand, looking at those numbers is literally like opening your phone and every person who's ever called you suddenly at that moment either sending you a very tastefully boudoir shot solely of their nether regions, or someone taking random videos with rapid zooms and Dutch angles of their genitalia, sending it to you not in Snapchat but in every social media app, and many that are not, that you have available. It's like every notification in your phone going off at once. The chirp for Snapchat, the ding for Instagram, the vibrate for Facebook and TikTok and Reddit and 4chan, and all of your games, your Candy Crush, the private messages from other players coming through with the most offensive, disregarding presentation of their junk. Manage somehow to keep your righteous anger and your fury from exploding out of you, but just so you hold on to yourself with all due force you can manage. You clench your fingers until the palms of your hands begin to scar, because if you don't, Your hands, your feet, and your fangs are rated E for everyone. Anyone with a wits of 2 or an intelligence of 3 can see the effort that Anand is taking to keep from lashing out.
I just take one step back from Anon.
Marie will. You alright, Anan? You good?
I don't understand in any way, shape, or fucking form how anybody could be this fucking stupid. Not you, but we have
Anon, try to keep
feeding.
your composure.
They're feeding on students, and they're not being fucking slick about it. They're not hiding it. They're not spacing it out. We need to stop this now before it calls all sorts of fucking wrong attention. Students
There.
are being fed on campus and reporting to the doctor's offices with symptoms of anemia, and some of them fucking alcohol poisoning. But it's really clear, if you know what you're looking for, what the hell is going on. We have a black bag task force on campus right now. Potentially government ties. And if they see this, they'll start looking for what's causing it.
Is this us? Or aren't these numbers indicative of, I don't know, more than us? More than the entire coterie?
It could be a group around this size, but it wouldn't necessarily be us. I would hope not. It's not me. I don't feed on campus. But yes, it's our sort, our type that are doing this. I don't know specifically if it's Tremere, and I would hope again. I hope not.
Again, it would be unsightly to lose our composure here. I think if there are already hunters on campus.
Yeah. Doctor is correct. It would
Who's
be
dying?
very unsightly. Otto walks in. And by walk, it is an extreme stretch of that, the definition of that. There is a rolling gait he has because of his lethargy in life and his absolute piss poor sense of taking care of himself before death has provided him with a girth and a lack of physical skill and talent of mobility. If he was not kindred, he would be hospitalized or using a mobility scooter or otherwise unable to manage easily stairs, the walk from the parking lot to the campus, comfortably and easily being in close proximity to anyone. Because even as a kindred, when standing, he wobbles, he wavers, he at any moment feels as if he is not sitting, that he will fall. And most people have an instinctual fear of a non-family member, especially male, collapsing atop them. And he presents that opportunity and risk and fantasy and fear when he moves. such as now as he comes trundling through the door. The only thing that makes you aware that you are at no risk is the fact that he is dead, as each of you all are. So there's not any labored breathing. There isn't any stress signs. There is the inability of his form to hold up underneath his weight because of his piss poor management of himself. It is clear that even in life he had the opportunity of money and idle time and did nothing with it except for sensually explore the world in all of its excesses. When you've all had the opportunity of speaking with him, you have heard the tales of him and his paramour of the moment. Most people have coffee dates, tea dates, maybe a walk, no. He recants with loving affectation about him and his paramour. And he's very careful to say paramour or partner as they roast a fresh caught suckling pig. They didn't catch it, of course. They hired their manservants or their butlers or their chauffeurs to do it. But barbecuing a pork, a suckling pig over an open fire and nibbling at the slowly caramelizing edges, peeling just the loveliest bit of light crunch away from the carcass. It was such a delicious thing. There was me and my paramour in the early days of St. Louis, before the arch, of course, and we would sit in the open air park there having freshly caught, because during that time the pigs would run wild. The farms weren't able to hold them. They would get out. It was a national public service that we did, because they, unlike dogs, would just shit everywhere. They would grow feral if not properly curtailed, and so we would often go on excursions to hunt up these escaped pigs, many of them no bigger than a 3-year-old child, and we were slowly, and that's how he recants his various past moments of almost love. By your account, over the last few moments, miles and months and weeks and years of knowing him, he has had approximately 267 lovers, and you all know that because one of you all, we won't say Tamada's name, has managed to keep a catalog of the number of dates that he's recounted, and each and every one is centered around a recipe. Yeah, we don't want problems. Oi,
But it seems
doctor
though
is.
problems have already come, Otto.
We can give them money; they'll go away. Looking very, very feral, Marie. It is nice to see you are washed and bathed. And Anand, did you hear? Arden Canty will probably be the next regent. It is such good news. It is not often when you see such a thing happening. Don't you agree?
A smile that rolls across Anand's face is a very much not happy smile, but very much I'm going to figure out how to kill you smile.
Yeah, see, she's happy too. Dr. Frederick, I missed you at my session. You would have loved it. There was this lovely shut-in. He was tall and hot in all of the right ways, and it was a self-flagellator. Not a cutter, but he would kneel in his shower and take his mother's hot water bag, the white tube that the women use for their hot water bag, and he would whip himself, and he didn't realize that he was squeezing himself so tightly that when he reached the point of the welts growing into open scars on his back that he released more than just from there. It was such a lovely tale. He tasted like sadness. It was delicious.
You're saying tasted a lot right now to me. And you just heard that we are having a problem with somebody on campus eating too much.
I would
Oh.
say, Otto,
Oh no, I
avoid
did not hear that.
students for now.
Oh no.
Actually,
Oh,
hold
no.
on. How many of your recent encounters have been students, Otto? We
Oh, I don't.
will refrain from being mad at you.
Oh, you can be mad all you like. It is perfectly fine. I don't feed on students. Most of them can't afford, even with their insurance, my sessions. Of course, the faculty administrator for the physical education, lovely woman, tastes like pears. If you are amenable to such things, it tastes like pears, and it's surprising. You would think that a woman from Georgia would taste like peaches.
I understand
All-
your logic. I don't agree with the
all the-
logic.
All of this talk of food is making me ravenous. Are we going to visit Salacious again? I understand that Tywin has a fresh crop of donors. My treat. I will pay for each one of you to have a sip or a drop.
I don't have much of an appetite tonight. I mean, there's always the appetite, but I'm not desperate.
Oh, one should never eat or feed when one is desperate. You will do so far too much. There was this gentleman, 20 years ago, from somewhere out. I don't know. Otherwise, somewhere that doesn't matter. That is not here. He was visiting Cone just after setting this place up, and he was so very hungry because he kept failing the simple you all are aware of the what is it called, the when you take the ribbon and you soak it in your vitae and you use the ribbon to find some, which one is that, seek the lambent flame, find the flickering tongue, chase the cat's tail. I forget all of the rituals. They all blend in together after a while. But he kept attempting this, and he was very, very desperate to achieve his goal, and he kept missing the mark and not finding his lost foot. It was a mess, and he just needed to feed constantly. He nearly went through the stores. This was when Cone actually kept stores of that deplorable, disgusting blood bags for those who, when the prices were considerably more manageable, of course. But he went through almost the entirety of the stores, just feeding and feeding it and feeding. Nothing seemed to satiate him. Now, I'm always one that is willing and able to feed, but this one, it was almost as if he was. Yes, no. What I'm saying is, never ever hunt or feed when you're desperate. You will just not stop feeding. You will just continue. Before you know it, you will drain a family, end an entire line. But what were you saying? There's blacks on the campus, Anand?
The face she makes. Still coming down off that rage. Kind of looks at him. I forgot how funny you were. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. I have
Oh.
a very developed sense of humor.
Little-
It comes from the money. It comes from my family going back to my great grandmother. She was not like the rest of us. She was Greek, a Greek woman. so you can imagine how exotic she was during that time. And my great-great-grandfather was a bit of a wild man. He hunted the wilds of Greece and fell in love with this washerwoman. I believe she was. Her family had a lot of money for Greeks at that time. Not that it was a lot of money to begin with, but you understand. Having a lot of money for the Greeks, and then my father, and she became a very, very rich woman, but she had a very sublime sense of humor. And she passed it down. You understand, those things skip a generation or two. Very fine breeding, gave us all very strong, large bones. I'm sure you can imagine.
As to answer your question, by the way, we have to put the wards back up. I have been spent the last week gathering supplies and resources to rebuild the wards. I'm going to need all hands on deck. I would maybe see if I can figure out a way for Maridi for you to participate, but you're not a Tremere, so I don't know if that's going to necessarily work. But
She's not a Tremere? I thought she was just one of those wild ones from Indianapolis where all of the savages are. You mean to tell me that, Marie, you are not a Tremere? What are you then?
I barely know what that word means. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I couldn't tell you.
You know, I can find out for you with a little sip. Would you like me to find out for you? Find who you belong to. Maybe there's a reward. Maybe you are a lost child.
Maybe some other time. I think putting the wards back up. Well, they were wards, right? Yeah. Putting those back up sounds more important right now.
It probably is more important, but we could hire those to do that. I understand that the Cone's chantry there across the border in those the deplorable south suburbs of the city. I understand he has more Tremere than we do. Why don't we reach out to Regent Cone? He was once our regent after all. We can have him bring his people here. They can erect the wards, and we can pay the lesser members to. And it will give us more time to spend at Salacious having a lovely meal. I could use a bite. Anyone else? A bite for you? A bite for you?
I think we should tempt the trap of hubris a bit longer and a bit of a point of pride to be responsible for our own warding. Sure, it's more practical to get their help.
What if I pay them to bring... I don't know. I don't know about you all, but I'm not really believing that Tamatha is as educated as he seems. After all, he's not here now. I wouldn't dare postulate where he might be, but it is, as you say, at all hands on deck situation.
And Arnie's making some good points.
so you're thinking he's at Salacious, so that we should have to go to Salacious and drag him out. But meanwhile, there, have fun.
That is a lovely idea. That is a lovely idea. I would never, but I think that maybe if we multitask, it would be better for all of us. Don't you think? I think that it might be. There's a chance, after all. He is the sort to be in very nice places with very nice donors, and well, if he is there, I don't know if he is. Maybe I should go check and find out.
Fine, I will split the difference. I will reach out to Cohen and see if he is willing to lend me some of his Tremere so that we can work together and get the wards pulled back up. And then, after I make my phone call,
You were his favorite.
to Salacious.
You were his favorite. You and that lovely blonde sister of yours. Why don't you dye your hair blonde? Is it so that you two can tell each other apart? After all, you do all look alike.
She growls, the fuck frenzy rolling now. She growls at him, legitimately growls at him.
Whoa. Relax. Okay, fine. You look better than your sister. You two are twins. You look exactly the same. I don't. If that is what it is, okay, fine. You are beautiful. You are more attractive than her. It's easy to tell apart, even though you look exactly the same.
How long
Dr.
have you
Fredericks,
been
what
dead,
did you do
Doctor?
to piss her off?
It's circumstance, Otto. It is simply circumstance. Now,
Let's see. It is 2024. Oh, yes, I'm coming up on 62 years of life, and I'm as spry as the day that I obtained my psychological degree with my endowment to the University of Illinois. I was one of the first to receive a degree in psychology, and only doing 6 months of studies. The fastest degree. And I'm sure it had nothing to do with my family's endowment at all.
you're fairly confident that their donations and endowments did not aid at all. Yes.
I am
Very
sure
impressive.
it is 6 months. Can you imagine the stir that it caused? A degree in 6 months, which is faster than almost every other student.
I'm assuming that you skipped the classes and went directly to the testing.
Yes. Why waste time with all of those
I
unwashed
see.
masses?
It does feel quite good to be in the presence of someone more intelligent than I.
I was not going to remind you of that, but thank you for doing so for me.
Of course. Now that I've buttered you up, Marie.
Oh, butter. There was this
Annette.
lovely woman, and in 1982, we were using one of the pedal boats there at the Lincoln Park Zoo. It overturned, of course. She couldn't quite pull her weight, and so her side went sky high. We took a small spill, and as our clothes dried there against the rocky shores of Lake Michigan, we enjoyed the most deliciously sand-cooked chicken. It was my manservant at the time, Hugo Amundsen. He found these lovely. Well, he stole them. I'm sure that he did, but he paid for it after all. I beat him within an inch of his life. Afterwards, it took several days, but he found these two chickens. At the time, the chickens were very, very small. Before all the steroids, so glad that there's a thing to grow them so large. And he buried them with these piping hot coals in a leaf-covered dome underneath the sand. And while our clothes dried, and he worked at making sure he piped in enough oxygen into that little small smoldering pit, the chickens came out succulent. The only thing was missing was some butter. Butter. Yes, butter. I do miss
Thank
the
you
taste of
again
butter.
for the tangent, Otto.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Quite right, quite right.
It
Have
really does spice up the
wandered
conversation.
off to the landline.
Don't go too far, Anand. Wait. We do need to take care of our problems.
Yes, we need to find who Marie belongs to. Are you sure a little small sip is not in the cards? Perhaps of course, we could do so safely in a way that would preserve the professional relationship we have, of course.
Let's table that for now. Frederick, do you want to start heading to Salacious with Otto here, and I'll go get a nod? Just quickly.
It would be dangerous for me to indulge in my appetite any farther. But if Otto does insist on having some accompaniment.
Oh, dangerous, you say. I don't think that would represent us the best if you're going to be a danger. After all, didn't Anon say that there was some blacks feeding on the campus?
What are you saying?
I overheard there were so many baggers who were wearing black feeding on students, campus,
Otto, we
academics.
have two dangers. We have a group of hunters on campus and a unknown group or an individual kindred, I don't know which of the two, is overfeeding on our grounds. If we already consider the hunters as a breach in the masquerade that is beyond our reckoning, perhaps the best thing to do is hunker down until they eliminate our poachers. But I want to resolve the poacher issue a lot more immediately.
It's probably a better idea to resolve it. If we don't resolve it, it draws attention. It draws attention, they find the other kindred who actually live on campus.
Poach. I wonder, is it possible for us to poach the Tay?
That is an excellent question. But that wouldn't be a predator-prey dynamic. That'd be prey versus lesser prey. Or hunter versus... Ecology was not my strong suit, Otto.
I see.
Technically, it would be ovipositorous, the feeding on eggs.
Ovipositorous?
That is a true fact that Marie did share. However, I do not grasp the metaphor.
Poaching the Vitae would be a problem because other people would find it too easily. After all, when one makes a mess in the kitchen, you have to wait for your staff to come clean all the dishes, and in that time someone can come and see what was your secret ingredient. We don't want that. So why don't we just pay students to remain under our watch and care? We can make sure that they don't go out. We can perhaps hire security forces to ensure that they are escorted from place to place, and this would make it very hard for anyone who is feeding on the campus to do anything much more.
True, we could increase local awareness of issues, not breaking the masquerade per se, but increasing a more... What is that thing called? Night walkers? Not the ones that exchange money for services. The individuals who walk drunk girls to their dorms in a protective way.
Chaperones.
Chaperones, perhaps, yes.
I could do a survey on people who come to get their medical checkups in my clinic. Ask them where they've been, if they've seen anyone in particular, see who they all meet, where they've all been, but I don't know if that would actually help all that much, considering it's cross-campus.
It would always be a good thing to pay young adults for quiet moments of conversation, just you and them and all of the dirty stories they've noticed. A little bit of chat, if you will. There was a time when you could, at any hour of the day, for a few pittance, several $100s a day, speak with a person of your choice. You could, tall, short, wide, not wide. You could pay them for their time to engage in conversation. I managed to write my first papers on the dialectical habits of young college-age women working their way through school back during the 70s. It was a great time to be alive. even if you were kindred, of course. And it only took several tens of thousands to get the paper published and pay the young persons for their time. You would be surprised how many women during the late 70s were working their way through school by allowing themselves to engage in conversation. I was sure that we'd have more college educated women based on that alone, but unfortunately, as is the case, going to college isn't the same thing as graduating.
Maria's just like, at this point, Maria's just got her hand covering her face. It's just at how awful this person is. They will nod. Right. I've got to go get an ad. So I'll leave you with this, Frederick. Otto, and Marie's gonna walk on after her.
You see like a little pained look on Frederick's face as you walk away.
Yes. Now we can get down to some intellectual conversation between the two of us in regards to. You said it would be dangerous. Why are you a danger to being fed upon or feeding upon? What are you doing? Aren't you? You know, this is the age of self-care. You have to look after yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You have to eat properly and exercise and tend to your well-being. You should not be a danger to the world or yourself. You'll stand out. People will give you weird looks. That's the reason why Maria's leaving, with you being so dangerous. Women, of course, aren't as physically gifted as we are, so she would, of course, feel a danger from you after you admitting that you are a danger. Why are you a danger?
I just like to have that little. I like to get it down to the barest twinge of hunger. I've actually never gone anywhere past that. I have not satiated it to the point of absolute reprieve.
He holds up his relatively massive, round, and corpulent hand, holding his pinky aloft. You have a little situation going on. It's nothing to be ashamed about. It happens to some of us. I wouldn't know, but you don't need to make amends for it. You are fine as God made you. And I'm sure it is not as small as you think it might be. Go ahead, drop trowel. I am a doctor. Let me take a look.
First of all, congratulations on reaching your 60th or reaching your 60s. And I am not pulling down my pants for you.
It's quite all right, dear boy. I am a professional. You're a professional. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And your shame and your little, and he again makes the same motion with his very corpulent pinky, is perfectly fine. Let's just make sure it is not as small as you believe that it is, and that way we can bolster your confidence so that you don't have to become a danger to yourself. Come now, come. And he moves closer and starts to unbuckle your pants. And while that's happening, Anand, as you made your way through, away from the centrally gathered, when you moved away, was there something you were attempting to work on? Was there some thought or formalized hypothesis that you were attempting to analyze? Or were you just simply avoiding the conversation so that you didn't incidentally or accidentally purposefully remove Otto from the census?
Mostly getting away from him to make a phone call, because she did like his idea of bringing Cone in or trying to get favor with Cone, seeing as how Cone kind of owns his life. She's helped save him. So she gonna flex on that and use that to get a favor from him. But also, she just really didn't want to be around him before she killed him. He's useful in some resources, but at the same time, he getting on her last nerve.
So as you move towards what has become or is becoming the primary office, because that's where the landline actually originates from, there is still the wall socket, and while the phone works, it's not the super long 100-foot cord that you can drag through the entirety of the space. So you are settling in the office and dialing a phone. Because there is a number that you memorized when you all left in the shambles of the destruction. When his sacrifice that seemed valiant at the time, because fire, bad, kept the loss of life to an absolute minimum, depleting his reserves and his vitae and causing all sorts of other issues. You all retreated to the chantry there in Dalton. You all managed to make the 46-minute drive safely, depositing phones at that time life most reliable ally, which is saying a lot because there's not many persons, living or dead, that you all could actively say is a close and reliable ally, especially amongst the kindred. But moving across the border, Illinois, to that hole in the wall chantry, it was very much compounding that distaste and that feeling of horror. You, Adlai, the others blending into some mildly colorful background. In your eyes, in your sight, the only persons that matter at that time were Owen and Adam. The others that survived, talking about fleeing to Indianapolis or fleeing to Chicago and abandoning the chantry, abandoning Owen, who had risked his immortality. It was crushing. Your clothes, your hair smelling of smoke and vitae. The thoughts and memories that assailed you of the Tremere, your chantry mates, giving over to their beast, giving over to their fear, giving over to their paranoia. The walls crumbling around you as you escaped. It was not a good place to be in. And as you make that call now, even all of these many, many months later, it is hard not envisioning the last time you spoke with Cone inside these walls. The promise and consideration of, even though Farmer screwed the pooch and he messed up the plan and he managed to ruin all of your month's prep time and research into what a grimoire properly aligned could do, not just for you all, but for the city. The prosperity it could bring, the peace it could maintain, it would have made the war that was brewing between the anarchs and those fucking vanguard non-existent. It would have been nirvana. And in that peace, there was already a plan in place to get Cone to be accepted as a prince because he brought the peace. And then Farmer fucked you all. And Calabalarshi fucked you all. And all of that work you all had put in to find a way for peace went up in smoke. Was you dial the number to the chantry you wanted no part of, to the chantry you refused to be a part of, to the chantry that Colin promised you would not have to associate with because it left such a distaste in your mouth. You call. His northeastern accented voice rings through. Rose Livery Service. How can we help this evening?
Well, I need a ride for as many as you can spare to help me do a bit of construction work. So what do you say?
It is a pleasure to hear your voice. I'm so glad that unlike we feared, you were not censured, despite all that Hesha put you through. The result of one of her experiments and how it affected you. Are you better?
Look, I know you two are friendly beings, but she definitely did help me.
We're not frenemies. Not at all, actually. I respect her. I'm glad that she's succeeded. It's the reason why I nettle her as much as I do. Do you remember the old adage that we talked about a lot? Steel sharpening steel. She is too good. She is too strong to be allowed to remain as weak as she is. Her skill, her talent, we're not going to even talk about her pedigree. The line of Tremere that have foisted her into this present. There's no reason why she's not the Segundus, if not the regent. The regent, not a regent. Not in a small, out-of-the-way chantry like this one. Not in a shambling mess of a former chantry like that one. There's no reason with her talents, none, why she shouldn't have deposed. No reason with her talents why she shouldn't have deposed Aristo. No reason with her talents that any of us need to scrabble and scramble for the few resources we have. You've been inside that shelter. You felt that power at her disposal. You know what? Because she's existed for so long without being challenged, without being pushed, without being helped to rise above her own self. She is wallowing. And we are wallowing. Disable for all of his grand ideals is not a Nikolai. Disable for all of his grand ideas is no Hester Green. He does the best with what he has. She, her, if she worked 1/10 harder, she'd be the regent of regents. And no one else has the unmitigated foresight to push her to make that effort. A rising tide raises all ships. Her success is our success. no one has the wherewithal to challenge her, to push her. We are all level.
I agree with
I'm
him.
sorry. I'm feeling.
You forget the priest stands in her way and attempts to crash her ship.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Several people have told me this
His
evening.
only
even.
child. He doesn't. He is more politically savvy. His failures will come to light. His only child of any note is your sire, who, like Capone, was killed because he's too well known. The only thing that he's managed to do is, well, a lot actually, but that doesn't count. He's managing to rise because he's able and willing to do. He doesn't have the talent for it. He doesn't have the born potential. 1/5 as much as Hestia. But because of my 2 failures, and, well, you're not educated enough, he's next most likely. Average Toe refuses. She knows that her rising to Regency would just cause more battle. More of us would scrabble for her position. More of us would seek either to become the primogen and undermine her, or simply make sure she wasn't a threat. Tie her hands so that she would be bound to us. Again, steel sharpens steel, and if she is not made of steel, she will be sliced through. She will be torn asunder. And she knows this. Look at what happened with Sylvia. Disappeared, used as a soul, stored in the reliquary, and shunted into the back of forever of her legacy, that of ill-trained ghouls who needed to be put down. All of that promise, and none of that payoff. Again, I'm sorry for being maudlin, but it is that time of year. Do you remember what we would be doing right now? Night. With that full moon out there. I can imagine it. I can see it now just over the western quad as the moon rises up over the McKellen building. Rituals we would be enacting there in the auditorium center. The first blessing, the convocation to ensure that success would come easily to us. Next, the warding against spirits not of our control. Then the warding of protection from all nearly humankind, those blessed with the kiss of kindred pate. Then the benediction of favor, so that all of us would rise at the earliest tremor of danger. The stories told, the memories shared, the pate that would flow. Tonight was a night to bind the warding circles. Tonight is the night where we would, as a chantry, come together in purpose and aim. It's much harder to do that here in this backwater chantry. It's much harder to gain that sense of togetherness. And it is much harder to, especially being as your sister is all but gone rogue. I don't have the heart to declare her anathema. You know how stubborn she was.
Please don't. We have our own problems here. Matter of fact, I have a fairly large problem that I wish to talk to you about, but it's not safe to do so, even over this. I have some questions that you might be able to answer. And she is my last remaining tie to anything that I care about. I can't lose her. But, again, I wish to do the wards. and the rituals, but I do not have the manpower here, which is what I was reaching out to you about, possibly getting your help and getting the amount of manpower I would need to rebuild the wards and bindings here.
Completely understandable. It would take, let's say, 2 hours and 26 minutes from now. Arrange a call to arms and a return to home for many of us.
Then I will see you in 3 hours.
The line goes dead. Marie is standing there in the door. And while Marie wasn't able to hear the other side of the conversation, the emotion in your voice is clear. The discernment of what that emotion is anyone's guess, but the fact that it's there. When someone is smiling or crying, you can hear it in their voice. When someone is overcome with the emotional storms inside of them, all of those chemical releases happening and bombarding against the insides, you can hear it in their voice. You can hear the weight of the words or the tenor of the passions. And Marie, as you stand there in the doorway to the office, having heard the weight of that emotion, finding Anon there, listening to the silence of the receiver as she gently replaces it. What's next?
I got on your nerves too, huh? Well,
Yeah, you can say that again.
I wondered if you actually realize the sounds that are coming out of his mouth and what they mean. Or whether he's just completely fucking oblivious and doesn't care. Either way, one of these times I think I'm going to have to either correct him or make him disappear. As to which one actually happens, it's a toss-up at the moment, but you didn't hear me say that, okay?
Of course.
We can go to Salacious.
I
and
mean, I'd
handle
like to
whatever.
be there when it does.
You got it. Because, yeah, the things he was saying. We have to get to Salacious if we're going to go, and then we have to come back here to be back in 3 hours because Regent Cone and some others are coming to help us rebuild the wards here tonight. And we have to be back in 3 hours. They'll be here then.
Okay.
So, let's go grab the other. Maybe Cone will
Yeah.
get him to shut up, like magically sew his lips shut or something. That would be amazing.
I pray it happens.
And I guess they're
After
heading
you,
back out
then.
the office. They're heading back out the office to meet up with the other two. And she's praying. He's still not, like, he's found something to do besides talk, but fingers crossed.
Marie follows suit. As slowly as she can.
There is the understanding that Otto lived a piss poor example of life. He overindulged during his living days. He under-cared for himself. He had people to do that for him. He paid people to do that for him. So him being physically mobile or active is always a site of intellectual curiosity. as many tales as he has of the things that he's done and the persons he's done them with, it is always done with a sure, your lovers in a different school, right? They're up in Canada, right, of course, sure. But as you all exit the office into the auditorium where you left Otto and Dr. Fredericks, it's quite all right. It's just the two of us. It'll be fine. We're professionals. It won't. And he's working and trying to. His corpulent fingers are working at Dr. Frederick's belt buckle and the trouser hitch. It's okay. It's not as
Otto,
small as you believe.
Otto, you are overstepping, Otto.
It is fine. You need
So-
this boost of confidence. This is to help you. Allow
I
me to help you.
am confident enough to know that I do not need your approval of my manhood.
Anon puts her fingers in her lips on the corner and like whistles as loud as she can.
Oh God, they're coming.
You see,
Hit the
Otto?
ground.
We've been at this for so long, they've already finished what they were doing.
A whistle. It's a whistle. It's not. Yes.
I'm going to need you to know whatever this is that's going on should not. And you know what?
He
While we're
had-
at this, no, you
He has a
shush.
small. He has a
Shush.
small, and I was assuring him it's not as small as he believes.
You need to learn that no is a singular answer to anything. The sentence, beginning and end, no. And that is all there is to it. And I'm pretty sure when you asked him, he said no. So that should have been the end of that. I shouldn't have to teach you about consent. I really
Foolish.
shouldn't.
He's being foolish. He has a little, and he makes this sign with his right hand and pinky, and he's worried about it. And this is the reason why he is dangerous, because he is worried about his small situation. And I was assuring him that it's not as small as he believes that it might be, and there's no reason for you to allow his small situation to make a big situation by making you feel uncomfortable with his danger.
Anon kind of has just had enough. And she's crossing the floor. And as he's speaking, she reaches her hand up and both fingers snaps his lips shut together and holds them. Up. Cone's going to be
There's
hangry
no
up.
way. There's no way that it should work. There's no way that it should immediately cause feelings. But as you hold his lips shut, and he lowers his face so that the angle of your reach isn't as high, and he meets your eyes, he's not looking down on you, and somehow, even with the difference in height, he manages to look up at you. His eyes are at the top of his brow line, and he's puppy dog eyeing you. And there's no way that it should work. But it is clear that he meant no harm. It is clear that he is saddened by being perceived or acted on as a past. It is clear that he is sorry. And it shouldn't work. There should be no emotional connection between his poor behavior and his inability to shut his mouth and his inability. But there is. Because there is an authenticity of intent. You know he's an ass. You know he talks too much. You know he oversteps and underobserves and invades everybody else's space, verbally and physically. But the authenticity of intent rings through. He considers you all worthy of his time, his effort, everything he has.
Nod is just so happy to have the quiet. She gets the puppy dog look. Just kind of internally sighs at the precedence this is setting. But if it works, it works. She looks at him. Now, Cone's going to be here in 3 hours to help us redo the boards. We're going to go to Salacious for now and see what the scuttlebutt is, because a lot of people talk when they're there, and yes, food can be had. You are going to be a good boy and not touch anything that doesn't belong to you without permission. And then I'm going to let you go. Right? Not if you understand.
He nods. Slowly. His child.
Lets him go and backs up. She looks at Frederick. I apologize, Frederick, that you were accosted. I'm sure he meant well.
He wasn't accosted. I apologize for exposing his weakness. It was not my intent to expose him to anyone, but merely to bolster his confidence. Clearly, he doesn't need any help in that regard. It's
I waited
fine.
way too long to pull these up. I started pulling my hands back up and redoing the belt.
Arrange a conveyance to Salacious. If you'll excuse me. And he walks away. One leg, of course, rolling in front of the other as he makes his way to the office to make his private call, leaving you three at the auditorium space. Jacob isn't here. Tamara isn't here. Sarah is no longer amongst you.
So,
I'm not a fan of the fact that the other two are missing, but we'll handle that soon enough.
You should talk like that more often.
I would like to follow Nod's lead more often as well. However, I do have a bit of a more practical proposal for how to work on our overfeeding problem.
Let's hear it.
Agreed.
Now, I don't have the tech savviness to do it with haste, but these young adults these days have a obsession with plastering their life all over the internet. Perhaps we look at some of these names and what is that platform? Facebook. We can Facebook them. And I understand that Facebook isn't where they post the party stuff. However, we can use Facebook as a way to find those other platforms that they have posts on and see if we can spot our reckless hunters, our reckless feeders in the background. Because if they're being this reckless with overfeeding, frequenting the campus too often, then perhaps they aren't being cautious in the act of being unseen. And if they are more social hunters, more social predators, then the likelihood's even stronger. Would you all agree or corroborate with this thought game here.
That's actually a really smart plan. I like the idea of reverse social engineering, a way to figure out who's doing this. Hopefully, they aren't as technically savvy as we would need, so they wouldn't know about not getting caught on camera and such.
If they're as technically savvy as you, my friend, I am certain it will work.
Yeah, I might.
Okay,
Dr.
then.
Frederick doesn't fully know how to use a computer. I mean, he knows how to use a computer, but he doesn't know any more than like the average entry-level person. He knows as much as someone in his 80s would know.
The moment you get to that portion of discussion about technological savvy, Professor Tamada enters, strolls in, all but actively and actually whistling. And by all but, he literally is whistling.
First off, you're not supposed to whistle after dark. Did nobody ever tell you that? And second off, where the hell have you been?
I was securing finances for my fall class, and I did it. The dean of the history and social science department will be under the weather for the next few days. I gave him the time of his week. What? You guys aren't happy for me?
Oh, sorry, applause don't pick up with the mic.
So, all hands on deck means nothing.
Game. And you, where's Jacob? Where is Otto? Where is what's her face? Sarah. Oh, that's right. She's not gonna be here anymore.
You know she said, stop it. And Otto's in the office making a phone call to get us a ride. Jacob, I have no
You sure that's a
fucking
good
clue.
idea?
And he's gonna get chewed out when I see him.
Otto. You know he's been poaching. I don't go into off campus to his office and steal his clients, but he's been poaching. You know that some of the faculty have been going to see him for therapy. Can you fucking believe that?
Yeah, apparently the PE teacher tastes like pears, according to him.
See? Poaching. I don't go off campus to his office. He shouldn't be taking clients from the campus.
Well, we're having a problem with a lot of people taking clients from the campus, including the students.
Now,
Nobody cares
in
about them. We just care about their parents' money.
my defense, I am overly cautious with overfeeding.
Same. Mine wouldn't turn up on these figures.
Oh, mine could, but
What do you mean
Wait, you
nobody
have
cares
figures?
about them? We care about them when they cause fucking attention to us and possibly gets us hunted. Yes, we care.
yes, Tamada, Marie here had shown Anand and then myself some figures of the campus's overall health. We are currently
Is it
devising there is a large uptick in anemia.
Oh.
And assuming
Anemia,
that we're after
depression.
Yes, and a little bit of overlap into the regular number of alcohol poisonings.
Well, okay, fine. Anemia, I get that might be one of us. And well, depression only happens if, a toreador feeds on you. They do that whole extra long kiss thing.
Yes. And Toreador do tend to be more on the social approach. So we might be looking for a avid party goer.
Well, everybody knows you either go to either Devil's Den or Salacious if you want a party. Those are the only two that are really worth the time and not the dingy slut fest that Budget Motel is.
Let's not talk too poorly about locations with the risk of Otto overhearing. I will not hear the end of him.
Just ask questions. You know that's how you get him to shut up, right? You actually display an interest. He's so accustomed to everyone ignoring him except for people that pay for his time. But if you display an interest, he shuts up. It's the only way I can tolerate the guy.
I will take that approach into consideration.
Obviously,
Same.
he's never tried to get his hands down your pants before, so we'll see how far that goes.
So, I solved our problems. Can someone say congratulations on the funding?
I've already applauded for. Oh, sorry. I silently applauded for you.
And besides,
enough.
secured funding
Good job.
for yourself. For yourself.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, if I have money, then I will have money that I can eventually, somewhere down the line, potentially share some small portion of with the chantry.
Reagan,
We
But if
are
I
in
don't have anything,
we are in a fragile enough state where the success of each of our parts does lead to the greater success of the whole, Anand. Tamada, I
You've
am
got a point.
deeply satisfied that you have acquired funding.
thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Hey, Anand, you are a good leader. You bound us all together to help celebrate my successes. That is great. That's wonderful. Your leadership skills are through the roof. Speaking of which, shouldn't we secure actual funding for here? Because the shell company is going out of business, at least according to Mike Dubiard. The funding is being curtailed. Seems we got to make reparations somewhere along the way to Chicago's Chinatown.
Fucking Dubiard.
Yes. And if we're not cautious, the IRS could get involved as well. And I don't want to sound too crazy, but I'm under the impression that the IRS does operate separate from the SI and have actually been outperforming them.
Yeah, but we're not Capone. We don't have to worry about the IRS.
True.
Plus, as much as I don't like her, we could probably secure a loan from Rita too. Make her pull her weight. She is a Tremere, right? Like the highest ranking Tremere in Gary right now. The least she can do is support your endeavors, Adon. I mean, like, it's weird that she's not, right? She did put us into that devil's deal to go look out for her enemy, right?
Anand is actively rubbing her temples, listening to this. We'll be fine. I am working on financials right now, and I didn't know that Dubiard had said that he was curtailing our funds for the moment, but it makes sense.
Well, it's not him. It's the regents. The Council of Regents. Hestia made sure that we are supposed to be all involved in it together. Everybody has a fair voice based on their circle. Canty surprisingly backed her play, and well, we can pull out what we put in, unless of course we're in absolute dire straits. What Dubiar told me. I kind of believe the guy. You know, he did warn us.
You. I'm the one that's supposed to be in charge. So why did he tell you and not me?
You've never played poker with him. You know, us being as we're all here together. I think he thinks you kind of dislike him. He's a very sensitive guy. Very sensitive.
They all are. Have you met half of the upper ranks of the chantry? Almost all of the men? Have you met them?
No, just Dubiar, Owen, Julius, Norden. I was trying to meet Canty, but he was all the way out in Aurora. I'm not going that far. Aurora, Joliet, whatever that suburb is. I'm not driving that far. That's just madness. That's ridiculous. Have you been on the expressways over there in Illinois? One good way to risk your immortality, just going out for a cheeseburger.
You don't even eat cheeseburgers. Anyway, we have stuff to do. We have to go to Salacious, and then we're going to be coming back here because Cone is on his way, and we'll be here in 3 hours, or 3 hours from about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, Salacious and I have arranged us to have a stretch charger. They say it is only 45 of them in the continental United States, and 3 of them are in the employ of Ivan. We will make quite a scene as we arrive at Salacious in style and are welcomed into the loving bosoms of Ivan and his lovely staff. Oh, I'm sorry. Anan, may I speak now, please?
Yeah, who's Ivan?
Ivan,
Ivan?
Yes, the master of ceremonies for Salacious.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. Yes, I understand who you're talking about. And yes, you may speak, but again, I'm going to point out what you say is important, and what other people say is just as important, or what they don't say. So pay attention.
Oh, I always pay attention. This is the best way to disarm people, by actually paying attention. There was this meeting that me and my sire, I don't know if you know this or not, but my sire was the foundational Tremere for the entirety of Gary. Way back when my sire and Dadov, the Nosferatu primogen underneath Modius, were the 2 forces that, helped build this place before Loden decided to crack down on everything. There was a point in time when my sire, the primogen of the Nosferatu, and several other no longer with us, Dooley, were associating at a club in Chicago. And to prove the validity and the potency of the blood of the Tremere, he allowed himself to be staked and handcuffed and hung from the ceiling inside of a burlap sack that was chained on the outside. The bet was simple. A trivial boon if he could not escape. And sure as you bet every dollar you might have, guess who escaped? My sire. I never learned how he did it. He would never tell me. But this. I
What
miss
was the
the way
name of the
things
club?
used to be.
Sounds like a real Houdini. Maria's suddenly very interested.
The cave. And not for nothing. I don't want to ride on his coattails, but yes, my sire was Eric Weiss, the man who became known as Harry Houdini.
Wait, he's a kindred?
Yes, he
Yeah.
is the Tremere kindred upon which this chantry was founded. It was not founded but until Cohn came along and bartered Nikolai for the opportunity. But yes, he was before there was a Tremere chantry, there was Eric Weiss here in Gary.
I had no
Also
idea.
my sire and my twin sire.
You have a twin? He says with a smile.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it would be interesting to know what Anon would look like as an old woman.
Yes, she is by far the prettiest of her twins. There's no one else in the world who looks like Anand. Tamara snickers to himself. He sounds like Snidely Whiplash as he does so. And the timing of it is hugely suspicious.
Oddly enough, I always thought he sounded more like Muttley. But, who's to say?
Indeed. So as you all wait the last few moments before Tyvan's conveyance arrives at the behest of Otto, is there any point of information you all would like to share? Any continuation of a plan you'd like to formalize?
So, I understand that part of this salacious trip is slight pleasure will be interacting and partaking and whatever have you, if needed. But mostly, what I want to accomplish with this trip is to find out what Rita knows about what happened to Sarah and what her thoughts are and whether she's now planning to stab us in the back, perhaps. And just to see what the word on the street is in Salacious, because people in Salacious talk. So that is my main reasons for going there. Information, reaffirming of allyship, and finding out what people know.
Sounds like a plan to me.
With all hands on the very large, luxuriously, sumptuously designed innards of the Stretch town car, the limousine that was sent for you, the Charger modified into an actual limousine, is just as spacious as you all had believed a Stretch limousine could be. It is just as ostentatious as you all believed a Stretch limousine on a random Thursday in the middle of back to school season might be. And the most glaring part, the most part that really drives home the magnitudes of echelons above how you normally get around the city when you all approach Salacious. Zine. It nearly completely washes away the taste left in your mouth from visiting the budget hotel. It gaudy neon sign, roadside. It's interior design to swallow away all of the poverty and abject wantonness and wanting of the average person that lives in Gary. As much as you all, in your own way, in your own manner, attempt to not be swept along by the luxury, by the privacy, by the idea of being able to be all that you hoped immortality might be shaped up to be, all of the wares on offer at Otto's behest under his tab. Even as out of place as your casual attire is, with him footing the bill and providing a smokescreen because he clearly is a club member of some sort, because he's given a pricing menu and there's a bit of filet styled donor listed. There's a clubhouse style donor listed. There's a sweet, savory donor list that he's been provided when he entered that you all never received any of the time that you've all been here. There's an sampling menu. And unlike the expectation that you all would get a table and a booth and a banquet, he gets you all an actual suite that overlooks the prime floor so you all could see and mingle and exit to the bar if you like. And it is orders of magnitude above where you all were just being inside the space. Even Tybin, who's floating and clearly pained by your plain dress, gives you space, not out of sullen silence, the silent treatment, but because of the privacy that Otto has paid for you all. You've got to try this one. This one is very sweet. I've had it a few times before. It's very lovely. She was not as witty of a conversational as I would like, and that's the reason why I find that her name being Candy is a bit of a misnomer. But this one here, this lovely gentleman, Beauregard, he is absolutely savory. He has the flavor profile of a perfectly cooked steak with caramelized grilled marks. And this one, this savage here, you don't want to associate with this one. This one bites back. He's only for those who like such rough trade. And as Otto is regaling you on whom and what he's tasted while he's here, you all realize that they're, as per usual, are more kindred and salacious than you would have expected to be inside Gary. The thing that's bothersome for those of you with Auspex is that there is a large draw to the eye as they move and flit across. You can pick them out. There's that intrinsic it factor that several of them carry, much like type. And as you all settle in at Salacious, it is 8 after the hour. I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and we'll see you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Craig.